You're good. All right, so we're good on there. And it's still starting over here. So here we go. Hey there, everybody. This is Richie and Amanda at Ketterman's, and we are looking at making some of our masks. Amanda is awesome anyway, but lately she has been working hard up here sewing some masks for us and our staff. So she is going to show you how she's doing this. Now, keep in mind, this is like prototype number four maybe, because here at Ketterman's, true to Ketterman's fashion, we are looking at the situation and trying to improve it every step of the way. So Amanda has put up with our suggestions and ideas and just rocked it all the way through. So we've got several different versions, but I think we're going to show you at least our latest and best, and then maybe a couple of the others that are possibilities. Okay. Now, one note is that if you are planning on making these for a medical professional, it is good to maybe check with them just to make sure that what you are doing will work for them. So, Amanda, how do you make these masks?
All right. So first of all, I start out with a piece of cotton. It's 9 by 6 inches in this case. For some people, it's good to add a little extra length just because we are going to be using hair ties on the ends, and sometimes it can add a little bit of pressure on the ears depending on the size of the face that it is going on. So we found that this has worked for a lot of our employees and things, so I'm just kind of sticking with that 9 by 6 inches, but make modifications as you need. It's pretty straightforward. In this case, I do have like a little filter on the back of it. I'm going to include it right now. On our first prototypes, we were adding 2 layers of the filter because we weren't intending on putting anything else inside. And later you'll see how we're able to add or do that as well. Secondly, for the back of it, I have cut 2 pieces of 4 by 9 inches fabric. This one I've already kind of sewn one side, and I've pre-pressed it so you don't have to put up with me trying to press it live.
You don't need to watch her iron.
You don't need to watch me iron. So I'm going to start because I want to have everything ready to use. In addition, as I mentioned before, I do have 2 elastic hair ties, and I do have binding, fabric binding for the ends, and you'll see how that's incorporated a little bit later. I'm going to start by sewing this second piece that I have not pre-sewn. I'm just going to sew it across. It's not rocket science. As long as it's functional, we'll be good. So I'm just going to start off by sewing about 1/4 of an inch in. And you want to make sure that as you start sewing, you back stitch so you don't have it unraveling on you. And then I'm just going to take it all the way across. And again, take it off and cut it. So now you have all of the pieces that you're going to need. There are ways, after you get some practice and everything, you can add wire to the top of it. For time's sake, I'm not going to get into that right now. But I'm going to start. I have my filter on the outside. I have got my pattern that I want facing outward, facing up right now. And then on these lovely pieces of this black fabric, I'm going to first sew one side onto the face of the colorful fabric because I want to make sure that the pretty side is faced out and not the ugly side, and I don't want that awful seam on the outside as well. So I'm going to pin it. This is just all it's the machine. It keeps it pretty straight. I'm just going to add 3 little pins. This is much easier than prototype 1 because you can just go ahead and sew both sides the same way, and you don't have to worry about the pressing and the creasing in the wrong places and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead, similar to how I did it the first time. I'm going to sew a little bit and back stitch.
So just again, for those of you who are maybe just joining us, Amanda is sewing some face masks, and the one that she's doing right now actually has a little pocket that you're able to put a filter or even a full-size medical mask in. So the ones that she has made have pretty much just been for our staff and our families, but the one she's making right now does fit a medical size mask in it. Which is great because we have heard from a couple different people that they are kind of rationing the masks at different facilities. I heard of one nurse who gets one mask for every 5 shifts. So it would be great if she had one of these outer covers to keep that mask from getting soiled in between shifts. So if you have any sewing ability whatsoever, you should be able to handle this. And we will maybe make a little supplies list that we'll post at the end of the video so that you'll know exactly what you'll need.
All right, so I have an extra pin in here. I have now sewn both ends to my lovely little front piece. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that top piece over. I typically would press it just to make it kind of stay where it needs to be, but I've done it enough.
Amanda's a little bit of a perfectionist. Everything she does is pretty amazing.
I've had a couple of times to experiment with this too. For this newer pattern, trial and error has taught me to pin it in the middle. You want to be sure to be careful when you are handling it because you don't want to poke yourself. But I'm just going to add 2 little pins to the middle to keep those flaps where I want them to be. Because right now they overlap about 1 inch, which allows that pocket in the back to slide that mask in. And I do have a little medical mask that I will be able to show you how that works. I'm going to pin the end as well so I don't get that creasing. This is the part where it gets a little bit trickier, but really just kind of eyeball it. What I would do is I would take my fabric, I kind of pinch a little bit on the sides, and you're going to kind of fold it over. This is going to create that pleat to allow it to fit different size. The different size mask is kind of universal for the most part. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin on both ends. As you can see, we're working with a lot of pins right now. Okay, and I'm going to do that again. Go down a little bit. In this case, the middle pins can start getting in the way, and I am getting a little bit poked by those end ones. So I'm going to just pin it again. Go through that fabric. I've bent so many pins in this process. It's okay. I have to obstacle around that back one that's in my way. And then I'm going to do it one more time at the very bottom. So this is 3 pleats in this case. And it's not perfectly symmetrical, but I'm just going to pretend like I don't notice it. Because from the front, it will look even. Just won't look too closely at the back. All right, so now I have what is the beginning of a mask. This is kind of the finishing touches of it to get it to that mask to be functional. What I do is I take the binding, kind of overlap it a little bit just so I have enough to work with because it's really tricky. I'm just going to do that twice. It's really tricky to work with if you are trying to hold it, and you'll understand why. In this case, it's not perfectly even here, so I'm going to have the shorter side on the front. That's where I will be sewing because it's going to be the part where people see, so I want it to be prettier. So right now I'm just folding over that binding filament on the binding on the back, and now it becomes a little tricky because now you get your elastic. I've already pre-stretched it a little bit, so hopefully you don't have to worry about it hurting as much, but you can work on that after it's sewn as well. I'm going to fold it over. Make sure that the elastic is towards the back. So now kind of it's all being held together where I'm pinching. In this case, I'm going to remove this pin in the back because I won't be able to maneuver it from the front.
And we're using the thinner hair ties, right?
Yes, these are the thinner ones. They have a little bit more give, so it's a little bit more forgiving on the ears. If you need to, one of our jewelers actually has ribbon tied around the back of the elastic just to take the pressure off her ears because she's wearing it very regularly. Then, similar to what we did before, I will be going a little bit slower because I have broken a couple of needles doing this.
It's a lot of layers of fabric to get through.
I'm hoping the last couple have been fine. The back stitch again. Don't want it pulling apart on you. As I start approaching that first one, I'm just going to go ahead and remove all of them because right now there's enough pressure on it where it shouldn't unfold. Across here. So then back stitch again. Pull it out. Cut that. So now one side is ready. This middle one, there's another one hidden down here. Should be fine now, so I'm going to remove that. And then we're going to repeat on this side. Oh, it's the front. Usually the back of it is not as attractive as the front, so I like to work from the front so I can see what I'm doing. Sometimes it's just, especially with this binding, sometimes folds a little bit, but doesn't change the integrity of it. All right, get that all squared away. Make sure my isn't in there.
So you have to make sure that the elastic is over on the edge so that you don't sew through it.
Yep.
Because if you sew through it, then it won't be able to stretch.
Mm-hmm. All right, one more time on this side. Pins. Okay, so now, no pins. You've got yourself a cute little face mask that can unfold a little bit to fit around the face. It also, as we mentioned before, has this little pocket in the back. So I'm just going to show you how medical professionals can use this. So right now I have this mask that was given to me by a nurse just to practice with it. So in this case, I would cut off the ends here. I'm going to do it because it's going to be used for this anyway. And her particular work would allow this. But as Richie mentioned before, just check with that facility that will be using it. So I'm going to cut off these little strings because they tend to get in the way. One nice thing about this mask is it already has wire in the top. So as long as you station that in your mask where the wire is at the top, you can still utilize that wiring. I'm going to slide it on in here. The really nice thing about this is that it can be taken out and you can wash the outside of it and then put it back in. So you're not necessarily putting the same thing on your face a bunch of times. So it's tucked in there. The wire is in there as well. Just kind of cute design, but also functional.
So then those hair ties actually conveniently fit right around each ear. And as Amanda said, if you need a little bit bigger mask, you can actually increase your measurement there. Or you can tie the two hair ties together with a piece of ribbon. So that helps with that part of it. So that is how you make a mask. We've made a couple others. There's one that you can do with a pocket in the back of it. Oh, look, she's got them all hanging up there that she's made. So thanks so much for showing us that, Amanda. And we will try and get a list posted of the supply.